I've recently rewatched Dragon Ball GT for pure fun, and honestly it was better than I remembered, even better than what some people would say about the show. And even before I completed my second rerun of the show, where I have made my research about GT's canonicity within the main story, I've come to ask myself, why do people consider GT to not be canon? And that's what I will be trying to find an answer for. Because if it wasn't clear, I believe that GD is canon to the main story, and I don't come out of nothing, I do have evidence backing me up. But the point of this video is not me explaining or proving why GD is canon to the main story, nor even destroy the arguments that argue for its non-canonicity. I hope the script didn't involve like that. It's really to find why people believe that. It's a discussion video where I speak my opinion on that matter, and not a debate or whatever video you first thought it was. So you can leave out your long paragraph, because my goal is not to convince you that GD is canon. To get an answer, I need subjects, and for that, I directly asked my community their opinion about this. Fortunately for me, the majority said that GD was not canon, and here's a list of arguments that I've catched on my server and on the internet as to why GD is not considered canon. The main arguments are: Toriyama didn't wrote nor was involved with GD, the lack of content of Super in GD, GD contradicts Super, and GD isn't an alternate timeline. Again, the point of this video is not to debunk any of those arguments, as in actually showing counter evidence or proving why GD is canon, but more so criticize this way of thinking. For the record, I'm saying this for both you and myself. The last argument is often more so a result of the previous ones, like it's an explanation as to why GD contradicts Super or anything. To my experience, whenever I was talking to someone that said that GD was an altered timeline, I didn't really had a direct evidence for that, like a statement or anything. It always came out as a result of other arguments or contradiction, to say. And generally the best explanation that I had is any sign of inconsistency GT or the end of Z would indicate that it's a separate timeline, because alternate timelines are created over the smallest actions. For example, Gohan's hairstyle being different in the end of Z. Oh yeah, because I'm also going to talk about my precious end of Z. I honestly don't get how a change of hairstyle would be evidence for an event to happen in alternate timeline, because Gohan could very well just went to the barber,
shave everything.
Why such an insignificant details as Gohan's hairstyle would be supporting evidence for GT or the end of Z being non-canon? Like, if there was a significant inconsistency, like, I don't know, Goku becoming a chick in age 786, while any instance of him before that year he was a guy, I think that would be valid here, because that change has a few implications that will lead to believe that this femme Goku is actually from another timeline. Like, was she always like this? If so, you could point out a contradiction, and I would think that would be a valid reason to believe that femme Goku is from an alternate timeline. But most of the time, the seemingly inconsistency that are pointed out don't have those heavy implications. Like, there's a YouTube channel which you most likely don't know the name of, use those type of inconsistencies as supporting evidence as to why movies are not canon, while some official guides would disagree with those claims. But one of the actual inconsistencies that could benefit the GD is non-canon rhetoric is the absence of Super's content into GT, mainly the god forms and Beerus. At first, I would also think that it makes sense to say that GD is non-canon because god forms are not here, but this only works when you believe that Dragon Ball is a consistent franchise that has everything perfectly planned or written out before, which it isn't. We are on something at the same smaller scale than Undertale and where its writer has full control and no copyright issues on his work, and we aren't dealing with a story that knows where it's going to grow into. That is to say that the reason why god forms don't appear in GD is simply because the production didn't think of that at that time. Like, the idea of god forms didn't exist at that time. It's not a deliberate choice. I would more say that it's a coincidence. My issue that I have with this argument is that it doesn't really take into account how the story and lore of Dragon Ball is externally handled, and doesn't take into account the concept of retroactive canon. That means adding on something to a story, mainly its past, while its future was already released before, like Shadow Generation. Horrible example, I know, but what it does is that it adds events to Sonic's story despite its future already being written. And what I mean by the management of Dragon Ball story and lore is that most of the casts, not counting Torterra my goat, does not care about consistency, or at least it's not their priority. Even when Toriyama was making the Dragon Ball manga, he didn't plan ahead most of what he was going to do. There's a term for this, I think. It's pantsing. It's a method of writing stories. It's simply not caring about the future and all of that thing, or at least not having things planned out. That's similarly the case in early Dragon Ball and after the Namek saga. That's also why you got Bulma saying dumb things in the end of Z. Well, we know it's not true, but that was for the boring external explanation. What about the in-universe explanation? Would there be any reasons for the Saiyan to not use their God forms? Well, yeah, actually. Saiyan beyond God and them focusing on improving their Super Saiyan form. And probably because Super Saiyan 4 is stronger than God forms. Okay, that's my outtake. For Goku, it's quite easy to get an explanation as to why he doesn't use the God forms. He simply can't because of his child body. While he does not get weaker, he has terrible ki control and can't even use the Super Saiyan 3 perfectly, so why would you expect him to use anything close to Super Saiyan God? Even when he regained his tail, the sole thing that would have allowed Goku to match Baby is Super Saiyan 4. So if we go with the assumption that Goku has God forms in GT, the reason why he doesn't use them against GT is because Super Saiyan 4 was the only thing necessary to defeat BB in the first place. For Vegeta, there's not really any explanation other than that could be made, but it could still be justified with the fact that he and Goku simply have improved their Super Saiyan so much that you don't need the other power-ups variants of it, including the God forms, but I honestly do not know for Vegeta's case. Forms in Dragon Balls aren't just a static multiplier. The characters can actually improve them and their power significantly. Take a look at regular Super Saiyan. It went from a simple 15 multiplier to become even stronger when they mastered Super Saiyan with its 4th grade. Or even an example in Dragon Ball Super, which with some Afterthought might not be that best of an example, but Goku fights Future Trunks as a Super Saiyan 3, but then he later on manages to match Goku Black as a Super Saiyan 2, despite Black being stronger than Future Trunks. As for Beerus now, the main argument I see regarding him is why wasn't he present in GT or the end of Z? If he wasn't present, that supports the idea that they are not canon. Why do you expect him to show up? Beerus is irresponsible, and even when there was the freaking strongest in the universe who is stronger than dudes who are already stronger than the God of Destruction, he didn't remove a single inch about it. Matter of fact, why do you expect him to even be awake at that time in GT? And what else do you expect from GT? That it would introduce Beerus for the first time in Dragon Ball's history? Goku and Co knowing him like they knew him forever and just leave the audience confused? If GT did that at the time it aired, Beerus would have been seen as an asspool. Well, it depends on how GT's writing could have been, but we're talking about hypotheticals here, so. And imagine Beerus was introduced in GT, like actually well introduced, presenting him in all that. His introduction in Battle of Gods would have been so redundant. Why are you so exigent on GT to expect it to put Beerus in it? And with that kind of logic, we can simply make anything non-canon. Do you remember Lunch? Yeah, why didn't she appear in Dragon Ball Super? That must mean that Dragon Ball Super is not canon. No, actually, I have a serious example. Why is Blue Kaioken not used in the Broly movie? I know it's not a character, here it's a form and all of that, but use the same line of logic, which is the absence of X. Like again, the very reason for those inconsistencies or lack of content is simply because Dragon Ball is not the type of franchise to have all figure it out for its story. Why are people expecting Dragon Ball to have nearly perfect consistency across its stories, like it would for more smaller and cohesive franchise, when due to the vastness and blurriness of copyright holders of the franchise, we should treat its consistency more akin to that of Mario? Not to say that everything is canon, but more so that consistency in execution, if not done with contradictions, shouldn't be the main factor that would indicate canonicity. It should be intentions, word of gods, or even guidebook, which their main goal is to make sense of the confusing lore of a franchise. I'm also going to make a parallel point regarding the end of Z, but why do people say it's not canon just because of Bulma's statement? Like, imagine the very ending of the manga that Dragon Ball Super has been building upon, plus the narrative and themes perfectly reaching out to the end of Z and character looking more and more like the end of Z self, versus Bulma being wrong, which that is alone enough to make everything I previously mentioned and not part of the story. Why one small sentence with seemingly no heavy narrative implication invalidates the bigger whole that is the end of Z? Even Ube having a different power than before the release of Dragon Ball Super, that would just change the interpretation of different statements regarding Ube's potential and power. At best, Super retcon those things, but that doesn't mean that the whole end of Z is no longer canon. If we were to apply the same logic, Dragon Ball Minus is not canon because it changed Goku's birth year. Like, do you get what I mean? Then there's the argument of GD contradicting Super. How do I say this? Just so we are clear, a contradiction can be exemplified as A equals non-A at the same time. So tell me, how does GD can contradict Super when it happens years after it? There's like a gap of 5 to 6 years between Super. Everything that would be seen as inconsistent between those two stories could be solved right there. Just like the end of Z, where we know that there is at best a 1 year remaining until the 20th World Tournament, which is just enough to take down Black Frieza. This is all to say that I don't understand how people can say that GD and Super contradict each other when they don't append at the same time, and there's like an entire blank period between the two that has the potential to explain those inconsistencies. And then there's the argument that since Toriyama didn't wrote it or had no involvement in it, it's not canon, which is the one that baffles me the most because of how limiting it is for story's world building and structure. The definition of canon states that for one thing to be canon, it must be approved and or considered by the original author to be part of the same world / continuity of their fictional world. That means that for a work to be canon to the original author doesn't have to add involvement or to have written it. The author just needs to consider it / approve it. That's why earlier I said that the intention should be considered over execution and consistency, because let's imagine a scenario where Toyotawa wants to make Super canon to the original GT right now without remaking it from scratch and assuming that Super has no inconsistencies towards GT. There is no way for him to change the content of GT as of now, like including continuity nods or something. GT is sealed. What would you think Toyotawa can do to make it clear that GT is canon to Super? Hypothetically, he could make his intention clear or even do things in Super that foreshadows or call forwards elements that are in GT. My point here is that if you would want to make one of your previous piece of work canon but have no much executive actions on it, that is, write things in its story, or you cannot change that work, intention comes to play, guidebooks comes to help, and interviews clarify things. So why are those things not considered for GT? Like for example, Dragon Rising is canon to the original Ninjago despite the Hageman brothers didn't wrote on it. I could go on and talk about all the different arguments for GT not being canon, like it being labeled a side story or whatnot, but I think the reason why the topic of GT's canonicity leans so much toward the negative would simply be because people don't like GT. And simply because of this, they wouldn't want it to be part of the current series. You could say that them arguing that GT is not canon is their coping mechanism, but I wouldn't be 100% sure of this. And strangely, I noticed a rising amount of people believing that GT was canon when Daima ended. Could it be because they found Daima its Super Saiyan 4 so bad that they now take back their take on GT? Again, this video is not here to explain why GT is canon or not. Go make your own opinion about it, but all I'm going to say is that there are guidebooks, there are interviews, there are small hints in Super. Now it's up to you to decide if you want to get yourself informed, form your own opinion by doing your own research, or you could blindly follow everyone and their argument without putting them into question. Not saying that most of them are bad, but you should have this reflex, question the validity of those arguments. If you made it this far, thank you for watching. It's been a while since I made a video like this. The last one was I talked about Dragon Ball Chronicles. I think I'm gonna do more videos like this in the future. If you've seen this video where I talk about my doubts about where I want this YouTube channel to go, you may understand why I even do a video like this. Don't worry, that doesn't mean I'm dropping animation or that I would do less of it. Well, less than usual. I just think that my channel needs to evolve into something that feels closer to who I am and how I want to express myself, because that's my channel, goddammit. For any people that may recognize themselves in this video, I didn't mention your names so you wouldn't receive any backlash from this video, so I hope you understand. If you guys want a video where I explain why GT is canon to Super, it won't be on this channel. If I ever do that, that will be on my Power Scaling channel where I do crazy edits and share my hot takes. I'm making that choice because I know a video like this would attract an audience that I don't want to be on my main channel, and I'll let you guess what community I'm talking about. And if you like this video, don't forget to like, tell me what you thought of this video, where did I get things wrong, share your opinion on the matter, and tell me if you want more videos like this in the future. That is, if you do this respectfully. I'm going to be a little less tolerant about disrespect after I saw the feedbacks and reaction of some of my posts I made. Like I said, I want my channel to grow into a specific direction and thus attract the community that goes with it. Sure, I cannot control who is going to watch my videos, but I can at least guess which demographic my video could target and decide who stays on it. Moving on a lighter note, I hope you like this video, and until then, bye bye. Like, if there was significant inconsistencies, like, I don't know, Goku becoming a chicken age 700, 786, 500 cigarettes, 786, 786. Like, if there was a significant inconsistencies, if so, you could point out a contradiction, and I would think, that was a bit condescending.